How's it going, guys? My name is Frank and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be doing our monthly analysis for the month of, what are we in? April now. So we're just going to be looking in these videos what we do. We do one every month. So what we're going to be doing is just looking at what has happened in March, what we expect to happen in April, and what our I guess, entire outlook is for, the whole cryptocurrency market as a whole. So if you do enjoy this sort of content, make sure to go and hit that subscribe button. We are awfully close to 1,000 subs, so that would be much appreciated. And do feel free to go back and check out all of our previous Bitcoin analysis videos. You can see them there. One, two, where's the other one? Analysis for January. So we do go through each and every month, and each video sort of builds on the prior one. So there's some things that we probably won't go into too depth in this video, but we have discussed in the past. But let's just jump straight into the analysis without further ado. So first things first, as always, we do check in on the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. So when you zoom out, whilst there's been a lot of price action in the last couple of months, sort of in this range, as you can see, a lot of, well, not all the way out there, but in this sort of range here, there has been a lot of movement. Once you zoom out, you really sort of see that, maybe it's not really that much, right? We're on a logarithmic chart, so I guess if we take it off log, it does look a bit more extreme, but you can sort of see, like, just following our swing charts, is that nothing has really broken down. Everything's still on top of all of our levels, right? We're looking at sort of this swing top here at 72,000 or 73,000, or what is it, about 74,000 actually, but it's sort of a major point of resistance or support, sorry, and we haven't really got to there. If we draw 50% levels, right, you got a 50% level just there, which we have come off, basically and hit. So just 50% from the swing low to the swing high. That's a major support that we're also looking at, which has or we haven't closed on the or closed under on the monthly chart, which is always good. And that monthly close was pretty good, just seeing wicks low, but pushing above, sort of those critical support levels. If we break it down, I guess, to a little bit more of a shorter term time frame, you do see it was really just one close below and then immediately springing out of there. So that's definitely a good sign to see, Bitcoin find some support on 50% levels. As we said, we still haven't tested the swing top, so there's plenty of support below at this stage. Of course, I don't have a reader on the future, right? Who's to say it doesn't go something like push up and then swing down, or maybe it pushes up, creates a swing, high swing low, and then we continue on for the rest of the cycle, right? Maybe not over that time frame and that price. Those were just squiggly lines, but as you guys know, we are sort of looking at about October being the peak, historically speaking. So still a bit of time left to come. Quarter 2 is often very good. You can see here on the quarterly returns, if you just look at the median, you can see that I think if the averages are a bit tough because there's a couple of months here that really would definitely skew the data one way or the other, right? So I think best case here is to probably just look at the median. You can see that quarter 2 is the second best performing quarter, obviously behind quarter 4, which does have a very, very high median. But of course, I guess you're better off just looking at it in terms of how often is quarter 2 green, and it's very often quarter 2 is green, or more often than not, I suppose. So that definitely bodes well going into the new quarter. You can see quarter 1 was red. Of course, the median is negative, so more often than not, quarter 1 is a negative month. Same thing with quarter 3, it's negative or neutral, and quarter 2 and quarter 4 are sort of, I guess, where you're more likely to expect gains, at least historically speaking. Same thing again, if you go back and just look at, poor performing months, I guess you look at the median again, right? You have a look at what months are negative. It's March. March is obviously, we just had March, 2.3%, 2.3%. On average, still positive, but that's, skewed because of months that just have absolutely ridiculous gains. And then, of course, you look across, you got, June, August, September, obviously September's obviously, always been a pretty bad month for Bitcoin. So there are a couple of, better months coming up. April, good performing. May, good performing. Then you got June, which is a bit of a slowdown. And then July, August is another couple of good months. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But of course, you can take what you want from this data. There's many different ways to read it. I guess what we're sort of hoping for, right, best case scenario is that we do have a bit of a 2017 case where we do run up very strong in the middle of the year. What we're hoping for is just sort of that end of cycle push. So end of cycle push, well, that's not an end of cycle push. But you can sort of see it's like the same thing with 2021, right? A bit of an end of cycle push, of course, a bit of a red month there, but you know, a good push up into the sort of the peak of the cycle. You go back to 2017, which peaked in December. You know, we're sort of looking at hopefully sort of that end of cycle push. You know, not necessarily looking at the months entirely. Of course, we were just looking at the quarters, but just looking at you know, where we are in the cycle, what we could expect on the monthly returns. So, you know, what each month looks like seasonally. So, you know, a bit to consider, but you know, what we're looking at, in my opinion, is that April, May will hopefully be a lot better. Maybe we get a June slowdown. Maybe June is just another up month, and then July, August, you know, September, October. You know, with the cycle maybe ending around October, at least according to our 4-year cycle. The other thing that we have been discussing is like the possibility of a pullback during the green period. That is something we've discussed quite heavily. We'll just put that back. But in essence, right, like each and every green cycle, you do see at least one considerable pullback. Doesn't look like a considerable pullback, but it is 40%, that one bar. Obviously, in 2021, you had that, you know, considerable 3 months down, 55% with, excuse me, a 55% withdrawal. And now, you know, we could say this is, you know, sort of the, I guess the peak, and then the not the peak, but like the pullback. That in time we might look back at this and say, you know, we had a 30% pullback in this cycle, and then, you know, we continue on for the rest. But you know, it's all a bit, you know, how do we know, right? The thing is, on the macro scale, things are still holding up, nothing really to worry about. But we'll go to the daily chart now. So last month, we'll just leave this up here just for a second. You can see we're sort of talking about just this trading range, right? And you know, hopefully that eventually we'll break out, right? So we'll, you know, highs, lows, yada yada. Now we have seen a pretty considerable breakdown of those lows. We're looking, this line here is the prior monthly swing top. So of course that's sort of a key support level that we're looking at, around that $74,000, which we haven't gotten to just as of yet. But you can see that we did finally break down a pretty considerable retest just here. You can see of prior support that, you know, obviously didn't hold up. Now it's acting as a bit of resistance. So a lot of work to do for Bitcoin. You know, we do have to sort of start looking now at different 50% levels. So that 50% level, the initial one, just this swing range, right, from high to low. We are looking at about, what's that, 93,000. That's where those prior lows came in, that pink line that we can see. We'll tidy this up just a little bit, but you can see we are sort of looking around 93,000 as the first, I guess, bullish case of, you know, breaking some support and hopefully, or breaking some resistance, sorry, and then hopefully sort of creating a base before going off again. That would be, you know, best case scenario. But of course, worst case scenario is that we just keep rolling over, right? So same thing again, I don't really know. The cycle says, you know, if we've been following this cycle, it says we should be going on a bit longer, but I don't think it's crazy, you know, to be considering exit strategies here. Maybe it's just taking some profit on the way up from this point on, or maybe it's, you know, setting up some stop losses and things like that. Like if we were to break back into this zone, start cashing out or something like that, right? Just to, you know, whilst we think there's a little bit longer to go, you know, we've been saying that all along. You know, as we get closer to the end of the cycle, right, each and every pullback has a more likely chance of being the top, right? Like being the exact top. So we got December. We'll just put a line in here at around October. So this is where, you know, this range here is sort of where we're hoping to sell, right, later this year, maybe a little bit before. I'd say probably, I'd realistically say actually, probably like mid. Where are we? June, July. There we go. July 1st. So realistically, I'd probably say like this sort of range here is where we're hoping to sell in terms of our time frames. So whether we can, you know, sort of push up, create, excuse me, create some better, you know, profits, that would be fantastic. But yeah, you can see that there's not a lot of time left here. You know, this is a ticking clock that's running out of time very fast. So with each and every pullback, it sort of means that we're more likely at the top than the prior time, right? Like, you know, this, you know, if I can make an analogy, right, this could have been the top, but it obviously wasn't. So now this could have been the top. This is more likely to be the top than the prior one, right? Because we're getting closer to that cycle end. This is more likely to be the top than the prior. You know, each and every pullback or each and every push up and pullback is more and more likely to be the top until it is, right? It's an inevitable thing that's going to happen. So, and as you can see, we're getting awfully close to the end of what we believe the cycle will be. So, food for thought. If you probably want to start looking at taking chips off the table, or where you're going to sell. Of course, my price targets were a little bit higher. We spoke about selling sort of, initially, a sell target of, if I can pull up the right thing, it was about 118 to about 140 ish. So we're talking about this range, which we obviously have not gotten to as of yet. Maybe we do push up sort of that high. We pulled up just a bit short, about 110,000. We're sort of talking about 118,000, of course, being our initial sell targets on the price side. But the other sell target is, of course, time, which we are getting awfully close to that time. So not going to sit here and tell you guys what to do, but this pullback, this is either going to be the top here, or the next push up is going to be the top. So you roll the dice on, sort of your risk versus reward, right? Or you can sort of, I guess, play it down the middle, right? Sell some now, and if we do push up higher into that final peak, then sell that peak, because that once this peak comes in, I think that is the top. I think that's it. So I guess it's, I guess you could say it's a 50-50, or however you want to look at it, but that's the risk versus reward at this stage for me. ETH has been performing really, really bad. We've spoken about this quite a bit now. You can clearly see we spoke about this trend line sort of being the last hope of support. Maybe it does continue up in this cycle, but it's sort of the same thing as Bitcoin, right? Where even if we do push up, we don't have that much longer left, right? There's sort of a 6 to 12 month period now where we're going to want to get out, right? This here is our sell time target that we want to be selling in. So if this wasn't the peak, we spoke about this trend line being a sort of get out period along there. So obviously, it broke. That could have been your get out spot there. So even if you didn't sell there, or are you willing to hold on for the chance of just one more push up, right? I'm not saying to get out of Ethereum. I still hold some Ethereum, I'll be honest. I still think it's a good chance it will go up in the end of this cycle, but there's a lot of things that just aren't great about this. Just the amount of times it's been rejected. The fact that we're now coming down to what I believe would be like 50% levels. If we just pull that up to the peak there we go. Yeah, you can see that 50% level at, what is that, at about $2,500. Just being sliced through, essentially. Held support once, pushed up once more, and then broke the trend line, sliced straight through the 50%. That's really bad signs. We're on the weak side now. Things aren't looking great for ETH. So we spoke about get out periods on ETH. We we're bullish on this. We're buying ETH the whole time, but this was we spoke about this trend line being a bit of a get out. We've spoken about 50% levels being clear get outs. And things just keep playing out the same, right? So I guess, will ETH have one more push up? I think so. Like there's bound to be a complacency bounce, sort of similar to here, or even sort of similar to here, where this is sort of, I guess, a good analogy, right? Where if you're in the market at this point here, and you're nearing the end of the cycle, do you sell there for 2,800, or do you try and wait? Because each and every push, do you sell this peak, or do you sell this peak, right? Like if you're in the market, it's hard to say, but price isn't really all that different, right? Each and every push up is a higher chance that it is the end of the cycle, and that's sort of where we've seen now, where this could have been the end of the cycle. We don't know. There is that chance that we do have one more push up, but how good is it going to be, right? What's the risk versus reward? That's what we've got to sort of consider here. So I think if ETH even does push up, say to the lower end of this trend line, something like that, it could definitely be seen as some good exit strategies. Say it comes up to the bottom of the 50% level around 2,500. That could be another good get out point there. There's lots of get out points that you can consider for Ethereum, if you think that things are going to continue up for the rest of the 4-year cycle. At this stage, I don't really have any reason to believe it won't, according to Bitcoin, and the fact that it is holding above all of its swing tops. But will ETH sort of ride that wave with it? It's not looking like it's going to be the best asset either which way you cut it. So, you know, take what you want from that. But yeah, I'm not too sure on ETH at this stage. It's looking very weak, obviously. Now, as for CRO, this is a token that we've been following very closely and has had a lot of movement, you know, in the last period of time. Yeah, really just chopping around still. If we take this off log just to get a bit of a clearer chart, to show sort of the extremes of the moves, you know, it's been swinging around all over the shop. We were buying these lows. We looked at, you know, we were looking at, you know, buying CRO sub 5 cents. When it went down below there, we spoke about that being a good, good retest of 5 cents. Now here we are, you know, well over 10 cents. Or by well over, we mean, you know, 10% higher or 7% higher. You know, and we're in this still this expanding wedge pattern. So a lot of uncertainty with CRO, that's for sure, just because of this type of price pattern. You know, and I think, you know, CRO moves so quickly that it's almost worth just following on the daily chart. And you can see that this was the inauguration, obviously a massive push up. And then, of course, I mean, like most assets, we came back down and retested that whole thing, right? Crypto.com then came out and announced that they're reminting a whole bunch of CRO tokens right around the bottoms here. I can tell you for a matter of fact, or actually I can't tell you for a matter of fact, but I can tell you from experience that this period here was, well, if I take off my magnet, but this period here was probably the worst sentiment I've ever seen on CRO. I've seen some bad sentiment in the past. Trust me, like, you know, this thing has been going down, you know, for years now, since 2021, right? It still hasn't nearly recovered from those lows. And I've seen some terrible sentiment. You know, we of course spoke about buying sub 10 cents. That's when we got really bullish on CRO. And even throughout this whole period here, I've never seen CRO be so pessimistic. That, you know, the sentiment was at an all-time low, and I almost made a tweet about it. I should have made a tweet about it because I was going to say something along the lines of, you know, with sentiment so bad, it's, you know, you've almost got to buy this dip just because of how bad sentiment was. And it was a great buying opportunity. You know, of course, about a 25% move or whatever it might be from there, but still a lot of work to go, right? And CRO, we'll pretty well say this for every single token for the rest of the year, where it's like, you know, we're getting in towards that, you know, June, July, that selling period, right? So this is our sell period. Same thing again, second half of 2025. We want to start selling, right? That's our time target. So the question is for, I guess, you guys, if you're a CRO holder, if CRO pushes up to 20 cents, will you sell? If it pushes up to 15 cents, will you sell? If it pushes up and tests the bottom of this trend line again at 25 cents, will you sell? Will you sell at, you know, 50 cents, right? There's all these questions about CRO. CRO is historically a late runner in the cycle. So we could probably push this back a little bit towards, I guess, you know, closer to October, if not second half or quarter 4 of 2025, right? But, you know, as we're talking about with Bitcoin, this next push up is more than likely going to be it. There might be, you know, something like that, right, at best. Maybe not to 30 cents, but I mean the swings, right? Like a higher low, and then something like that. So as CRO pushes up here, you know, say we end up in June and we're at this point here, you know, that to me is like almost I have to sell, right? Because if things start to come back down, that's it. That's it for CRO, right? This final push, this is it. Like the timing on the market, to me says that if CRO is going to push up and at least break, you know, this cycle highs. We're not even talking about dollars and whatever else. Like I know a lot of people want CROs to hit, you know, $1 and hit all those numbers, and that'd be great, right? That's just extra positives if it does do that. But what we need to consider, same thing again, is our risk versus reward. And risk at this stage in the market is very high because this is probably the last cycle, or not the last cycle, but the last, you know, push up. This is it, right? If you don't cash out during this next push up, if there is a push up, right, you might, you know, we might look back at this and say this was the final push up. That's what we're sort of talking about. So it's all just about managing that risk versus reward, right? So if CRO pushes up here, you got to start to really consider selling. In my opinion, because this is more than likely, you know, this is it, right? This is the last run up. You know, where are you going to start to sell? You know, because we're looking at, you know, it's basically the second half of 2025 is what we're in right now. So it's getting to that point in time where it's, you know, time to sell. This is more than likely going to be the last push out. If we can't break above, and things start to look like they're going to collapse again, it's time to just get out. In my opinion, the risk versus reward is starting to skew towards higher risk. As this is, if we're saying this is the end of the cycle, after this is collapse, right? That's what we're saying. We're talking about another enormous withdrawal, for CRO, and then a multi-year bear market, which you don't want to be a part of, right? Even even though we bought, even though we've been buying, sub 10 cents, we haven't really seen that reward. We would have been better off investing in Bitcoin, right? That's very clear. That's very evident. I'll admit that. You don't want to get stuck in that sort of situation. Not necessarily, buying this area here wasn't, a terrible act. It wasn't our most profitable move, but you don't want to get stuck buying here. When the cycle's over, or when it's very nearly over, and then riding this thing all the way down. So, that's sort of where we're at with CRO. Same thing again, like the risk versus reward management here has to be very on point, is what I would say, for everyone. So, you do have to consider where we are. We're running out of time. If CRO doesn't push up from this point onwards, definitely some big alarm bells. I do like that it, on the very short term, that it's actually consolidated above 10 cents. Like it's found that real support zone above 10 cents, whereas prior you can see here very, very, very clear resistance for that 10 cents. Same with, you'll see it more clearly on like an hourly bar or something like that, right? But get out of pen mode because we're starting to draw. But yeah, that's a good start for another leg up. But how far does this thing run up? What is your risk versus reward? That's all the questions we've got to start to consider now. So we'll continue to talk about this. Like, I'm not going to tell you guys what I'm going to do because I don't want people following me, to be honest. I'm not some magical investor. I'm not going to, be able to tell you guys exactly what to do. Make mistakes. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys what I'm going to do. I'm just going to tell you my opinion, my thoughts on the market. My thoughts are, consider that risk versus reward, right? Like, it's getting to a very interesting stage of the cycle. Now on to Solana. We've been talking about this for quite a while, being a very evident sell. This was just a, terrible, terrible move up for Solana. Like, absolute euphoria into a nothing bounce, closing lower than the previous, highs. So at least the sort of the wick highs. Here we are back at $124, price ranges that we hadn't set. We were here back in, December 23, January 20, January 24, like, those sort of months, March 24. Initially we don't have to do the whole spill, but, we spoke about buying Solana around this period here. And, if we hadn't sold, we'd be at almost break even point. But that's what we want to talk about, sort of that, I guess, considering your risk versus reward, same thing again. This tweet here, Jan 22nd, sold my first bit of Solana. Whilst I think there's a potentially more upside, I'm happy to take some chips off the table with recent price movement. Profits are profits. Best to start taking them whilst you can. And that tweet, most of my tweets don't age gracefully, but this tweet absolutely did. You can see that's Jan 22nd. That is, it's not the top. It's not $290. But nobody, I guarantee nobody knows anyone that sold the top of that wick. That was a very good time to sell. I then had to look back just for context of where I then sold. I sold some more. I sold a pretty big bag on Feb 3rd. So obviously, same thing again. It's not the top. I didn't sell the top. I'm not going to sit here and say, I sold the exact top. I sold a little bit, and then I sold a good chunk, and then I sold the little bit I had left. March 23rd. That was basically it. I'm all out of soul at this point in time. I'll be honest with you guys, because, what's there to really like here? The risk versus reward, that's the same thing, right? Like, if we're looking at this period of time, maybe Solana recovers, right? Maybe it does that. But am I willing to risk, an additional, or whatever it goes up to, right? It's not really the point. Am I willing to risk an extra, whether it be 10%, 20%, 30%, or am I willing to, willing to, risk the whole bag, if it, continues to go to, down lower? Well, am I willing to risk all that for that potential little bit of upside? And the answer was no to me, right? Like, I thought, and as I said, I think there could be, more upside, but, the longer things went on, the more I went, God, even if there is upside, Even when I was selling here, I wasn't happy with that sell, right? Don't get me wrong. Like this bag that I sold here, I technically sold like basically even. I didn't actually make any profits because a lot of the, the bit of sold that I sold there, definitely in profit, definitely in profit. But the bit that I sold here, because it goes off of, like, I don't know if you guys do your how you do your tax calculators, but you base your profits on first in, first out. So that bit of sold that I sold there is based on your first in. So my first in Solana was around here, and then that bit that I sold there was probably bought all in around here. And then this bit of Solana that I sold in February, I technically hadn't even made that much profit because this was all this period of buying. I was still buying during this period. I still liked Solana around this price. And I ended up selling it, basically break even. Now, yes, I made profits overall, like of course. But you just got to know when to cut your losses, right? This would be at a loss for me. My remaining Solana that I bought, sort of in this period here, being down here. So I don't know if that makes sense, but you get what I'm saying, right? I basically sold this last bit for a break-even price. And it was a good get-out stage. Now, will Solana recover? I hope so. I wouldn't mind. Right, if Solana pumps up, everything else is probably going to pump up that I'm still holding. So that's a good thing. But I'm not willing to risk that for that, just that, potential of a little bit more profit. So that's what we're sort of talking about with every other token. Where do you draw the line? And that price action was really bad. So that's where I drew the line for me personally. So Solana. Am I looking to buy? No, I'm still not looking to buy. At this point in time, I haven't honestly looked at really the chart, like it's below its 50% level. I don't know. Maybe if it broke above and had some serious consolidation, along that sort of level, we need to clean this up. There's so many lines and dots and different things going on. But how is that line still there? Thought I just deleted that. But if it pushed up to this level and then, consolidated, maybe. But even then, like, I've sold Solana. I'm happy with this cycle and how I played Solana. So, take what you will from that. But I'm not buying Solana. We spoke about sell points on Twitter. So do go follow my Twitter as well if you do like this sort of thing. But that's sort of, how we've played Solana this cycle. And I think we played it well. Other things we haven't played well. Ethereum, we have not played well. Solana, we played well. Kronos, maybe we'll play well if it pumps up a bit higher and we get a good sell price. Bitcoin, we played well. We spoke about buying Bitcoin. I mean, you can go back on my Twitter page as long as you bloody want. Probably not on my Twitter. I think my YouTube's been around a bit longer than my Twitter. So, there's looking to be one of the strongest altcoins. This is at $101. Now, I'm not doing this to boast myself, but we're just talking about, like, some things you make the right calls, some things you don't make the others, but it's about, you gotta recognize the point where you cut your losses or you take profits or you do whatever you got to do, right? In order to do, we're talking about Bitcoin ages ago. We're talking about it, the whole bloody cycle. So you get the idea, right? But look, that's pretty well going to cover it for today. Those are the 4 cryptos that we're following closely. And as I said, like, not every token you're going to sell at the top. You just got to, risk versus reward at this stage in the market. So if you do enjoy this sort of content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are pushing for 1,000 subs. I want to thank you all if you've been sitting here for, a ridiculous amount of time. I want to thank you all so much. So, anyways, peace out. I'll catch you guys later. Enjoy the rest of your day.